second chances where new beginnings begin. Through the shadows of my past I find a guiding light, leading me to brighter days where everything feels right. I've stumbled and I've fallen, but I refuse to stay down. With every dawn that breaks, a new chapter I have found. I'm breaking free, rising from the ashes with hope in my heart and fire in my eyes. I'm starting new, leave behind the past. With each step I take, I'm reaching for the sky. Through the struggles and the pain I've learned to stand tall, embracing every scar as a story on my wall. No longer chained by fear, I'm spreading my wings wide, soaring to new heights with the wind as my guide. I've stumbled and I've fallen, but I refuse to stay down. With every dawn that breaks, a new chapter I have found. I'm breaking free, rising from the ashes with hope in my heart and fire in my eyes. I'm starting new, leave behind the past. With each step I take, I'm reaching for the sky. In the silence of the night I hear a whispering wind, telling tales of second chances where new beginnings begin. Through the shadows of my past I find a guiding light, leading me to brighter days where everything feels right. I've stumbled and I've fallen, but I refuse to stay down. With every dawn that breaks, a new chapter I have found. I'm breaking free, rising from the ashes with hope in my heart and fire in my eyes. I'm starting new, leave behind the past. With each step I take, I'm reaching for the sky. Through the struggles and the pain I've learned to stand tall, embracing every scar as a story on my wall. No longer chained by fear, I'm spreading my wings wide, soaring to new heights with the wind as my guide. I've stumbled and I've fallen, but I refuse to stay down. With every dawn that breaks, a new chapter I have found. I'm breaking free, rising from the ashes with hope in my heart and fire in my eyes. I'm starting new, leave behind the past. With each step I take, I'm reaching for the sky. Through the struggles and the pain I've learned to stand tall, embracing every scar as a story on my wall. No longer chained by fear, I'm spreading my wings wide. Shadows cling, suffocating night, buried deep in the heart of fight. Whispers of despair, they scream through the silence of a shattered dream. As it does to a distant glow, steps uncertain, but I know through the darkness I will rise. Sinking solace in the morning skies. Emerging from darkness, feel the dawning night, breaking through the night, reclaiming light. From sorrow to hope we rise again. New beginnings in the end. The torment, prison of pain, haunted as is loving me insane. But a flick of a spark of light cuts through the glow like a knife. As it draws to a distant glow, steps uncertain, but I know through the darkness I will rise, sinking solace in the morning skies. Emerging from darkness, feel the dawning night, breaking through the night, reclaiming light. From sorrow to hope we rise again. First spark of life cuts through the bone like a knife. Feel the fire, feel the flame. Burn away the guilt and shame. Where's the love? Break the chain. Scream out loud, my soul's refrain. As I just to a distant glow. Steps uncertain, but I know. Through the darkness I will rise. Seeking solace in the morning skies. Emerging from darkness, feel the dawning night. Breaking through the night, reclaiming light. From sorrow to hope, we rise again. New beginnings in the end.
What up, everybody?
Emerging from darkness with a roaring cry. Winds of redemption, we touch the sky. From shadows to sunrise, our spirits mend. In the light of dawn, we find the end.
Alrighty. Now we're gonna have to talk about this AI music. Alrighty. Well, as you all know, AI has really exploded in the last few months. Now, some of you may know that I was an actual beta tester about a year ago for some of these products. So I've been using AI music for a long time. And if you go back on my channel and look at some of the AI music I did 6 or 8 months ago and compare it to the AI music I did, say, yesterday, huge difference in leaps and bounds in the technology that they've come up with. Now, in the last week, it has come out that record labels, let me bring this up. Record labels are now suing record labels are now suing. Let me put this up here so it's bigger. These companies, now there's two big companies. It's Suno AI and Udio AI that are being sued right now. Now I do have a article I want to read real quick. This is from Billboard.com. I'll give you guys the link to this article as well. I'll drop it over in Rumble if anybody's over watching on Rumble. Give me just 1 second here. There we go. So this article comes from Billboard.com, and I want to read through some of it here. It says major labels sue AI firms Suno and Udio for alleged copyright infringement. Spearheaded by the RIAA, Universal, Warner, Universal, Warner, and Sony have banded together to sue two of the are the most advanced startups in the emerging field of AI music. 3 major music companies filed lawsuits against AI music firms Suno and Udio on Monday, alleging the widespread infringement of copyrighted sound recordings. Fuck you, mouse. Start that again. Oh, let me fix this mouse here. The scroll on wheel on my mouse is not working correctly. 3 major music companies filed lawsuits against AI music firms Suno and Udio on Monday, alleging the widespread infringement of copyrighted sound recordings at an almost unimaginable... I ain't even touching the fucking mouse and it's doing this on its own. Jesus fucking Christ. The lawsuits spearheaded by the Recording Industry Associated... The lawsuits spearheaded by the Recording Industry Association of America, or the RIAA, arrived 4 days after the billboards first reported the news that the labels were seriously considering... I'm seriously going to smash this motherfucking mouse, and I'm going to end up pulling out this old motherfucker from a Windows 95 and use that because it's fucking reliable. The lawsuit, spearheaded by the Recording Industry, RIAA, arrived 4 days after billboards first reported the news that the labels were seriously considering legal action against the 2 startups. Motherfucker. It's going to fucking piss me off. Filed by plaintiffs that include Sony Music, Warner Music Group, and Universal Music Group, the lawsuits allege that Suno and Udio have unlawfully copied the label's sound recordings to train their AI models to generate music that could saturate the market with machine-generated content that will directly compete with, cheapen, and ultimately, I'm going to stick my fist through this fucking monitor. Ultimately, drown out the genuine sound recordings on which the services were built. Building and operating these services requires Building and operating these services requires at the outset copying and ingesting massive amounts of data to train a software model to generate outputs that lawyers for the major labels explain. This process involved copying decades worth of the world's most popular sound recordings and then ingesting those copies to generate outputs that imitate the qualities of genuine human sound recordings. Now, I kind of have an issue with that statement right there. Since the day it launched, Udio has flouted the rights of copyright owners in the music industry as part of a mad dash to become a dominant AI music generation service. The lawsuit against Udio reads, neither Udio nor any other generative AI company can be allowed to advance towards this goal by trampling the rights of copyright owners. I'm gonna fucking lose it. The lawsuit is seeking both an injunction to bar the companies from continuing to train on the copyrighted songs, as well as damages from the infringements that have already taken place. Udio did not respond to Billboard's request for comment on Monday. Suno CEO Mike Schulman, I'm assuming that's that guy there. Maybe, maybe not. Suno CEO Mike Schulman, motherfucker. All right, you want to fucking play that? We'll just do this, motherfucker. Fuck you. And fuck you.
Suno CEO Mickey Schulman responded to news of the lawsuit in a statement, saying, Suno's mission is to make it possible for everyone to make music. Our technology is transformative. It is designed to generate completely new outputs, not to memorize and regurgitate pre-existing content. That is why we don't allow user prompts that reference specific artists. We would have been happy to explain this to the corporate record labels that filed this lawsuit, and in fact, we tried to do so. But instead of entertaining a good faith discussion, they've reverted to their old lawyer-led playbook. Suno is built for new music, new uses, and new musicians. We prize originality. Suno and Udio have quickly become two of the most advanced and important players in the emerging field of generative AI music. While many competitors only create instrumentals or lyrics or vocals, Suno and Udio can generate all three in the click of a button with shocking precision. Udio has already produced what could be considered the first AI-generated hit song with the Drake diss track BBL Drizzy, which was generated on the platform by comedian King Melonius and popularized by a Metro Boomin remix. Suno has also achieved early success since its
Fucking
December
mouse is moving all on
2023
its
launch,
own.
raising $125 million in funding from investors like Lightspeed Venture Partners, Matrix, Nat Friedman, and Daniel Gross. Both companies have declined to comment on whether or not unlicensed copyrights were part of their datasets. In a previous interview with Billboard, Udio co-founder David Ding said simply that the company trained on good music. However, in a series of articles for Music Business Worldwide, founder of IA Music Safety non-profit Fairly Trained, Ed Newton Rex, found that he was able to generate music from Suno and Udio that bears a striking resemblance to copyrighted music. This is true across melody, chords, style, and lyrics, he wrote. The complaints against the two companies also make the case that copyrighted material was used to train these models. Some of the circumstantial evidence cited in the lawsuits include generated songs by Suno and Udio that sound just like the voices of Bruce Springsteen, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Michael Jackson, and ABBA, outputs that parrot the producer tags of Cash Money, IP, and Jason Derulo, and outputs that sound nearly identical to Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, The Beach Boys, I Get Around, ABBA Dancing Queen, The Temptations, My Girl, Green Day's American Idiot, and more.
You like how this mouse just moves shit all by itself? Yeah, I'm about ready to fucking lose it. You're going to see me throw this motherfucker on a live stream. So, if this is true that Udio and Suno are modeling artist voices, then that could be an issue. I could see where that could be an issue. Now, I haven't ran across it yet in Suno, but I have ran across it. Let me pull up Udio here. I have ran across this in Udio where I created a song, and when I first heard this song, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, this sounds an awful lot like Iron Maiden. Now, as soon as I made this and I heard it, I'm like, man, this is gonna be fucking copyrighted. Because listen to this and tell me this doesn't sound like Bruce Dickinson and an Iron Maiden tune that you would hear on one of their albums.
He walked a lonely road, lost in a haze, chasing highs to numb the pain, lost in a daze. His dreams faded away in the midnight sky as he drowned in sorrows, wondering why. But deep inside, a flicker remains, a spark of hope, a voice unchained
Now, if I was to hear this just on the radio,
to break free,
I would assume this was an Iron Maiden song that I hadn't heard.
to reclaim his life, to wash away the stain. He fought through the darkness, climbed every hill, battled his demons with an iron will, through the tears and the scars.
So I can definitely see where that can be copyrighted, because to me that sounded exactly like Bruce Dickinson. Now I've been a huge Iron Maiden fan since the early 80s. And I've followed their career. I've been to more Iron Maiden concerts than any other band out there. And if I was just to hear that on the radio, I would assume that was a new Iron Maiden album. I wouldn't have expected. I wouldn't have thought that would have been an AI. I would have just, I mean, seriously, if I would have heard that on the radio, I would have expected, I would have been like, oh shit, this is a new Iron Maiden song I haven't heard. But I do have a guest. Let's bring him up. How's it going, Robert? How you doing, my friend?
Doing exceptionally well, my friend. Thank you. I've got an echo.
Oh, let me turn that off. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Outstanding. Well, as I mentioned in the chat, I certainly have something to say about this. And you and I have done a couple of shows. We've talked a little bit about some of this AI stuff. And to me, there's really two major issues that are going on here. One is the AI itself, and the other is the legacy institutional music market that has been around for far too long, that's been screwing artists left and right for decades. So I think what we're having is a collision of the two. Now, first of all, the AI thing is, I'm just going to call it complete bullshit. And what I mean by that is the technology is bullshit. People don't realize how AI is structured, how it works, what's behind it. There's a whole bunch of FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there. And AI is nothing what people are being told it is. It's nothing more than the next generation of what we called back in the 90s, when I was at the peak of my tech career, business intelligence and big data. AI is nothing more than the latest iteration of the assistant tools that we've used for the last couple of decades at least, along the lines of Alexa and Siri and Google and Bing and Brave and all these other search engines. They're all AI is right now is the next iteration of being able to search static data. It has no creativity. It has no instinct. It has no soul. It has no feel. You can't program those things into software and hardware because they are components of consciousness, which is known as the hard problem across all science disciplines. You can't program those things. And what is music? Music is creativity, intuition, soul, feel. While it does come up with some great stuff, and I'm going to hand it to you, my friend, you have done an outstanding job putting together some great music, great lyrics, great soundtracks, and all of that. And it sounds great, but there's no feel to it, right?
Yeah.
It sounds good, but when in Rick Beato's piece that you and I shared and went across the last couple of days, I think Rick completely nailed it. Back when I grew up, we worked as hard as we could to get $10 to go buy the new album.
Yep.
And we did go to our friend's house and we turned it on and we played it over and over and over, smoking bongs, drinking beer, and musing about the liner notes, the different components of what went into the album. Who were the artists? Who was the engineer? Who was the producer? And all those things were important. Today's music is the majority of the shit that's out there on the Spotify top 10, which again, Beato does a great job breaking down, has dozens of writers and very few lyrics. And you look at it and you go, how in the hell did it take 10 or 20 writers and producers to come up with something that doesn't say shit and repeats the same fucking lyric and chorus over and over and over? There is no creativity, right? So the homogenization and commercialization of music that's out there today is one of the sad states of affairs within the music industry itself. AI is never going to replace real music. It's not going to replace musicians. You're never going to get a Miles Davis or a John McLaughlin or a Pat Metheny, or Borelli Green. I mean, you're not going to find music that moves you from a machine. So that's the first area of the problem with this AI stuff. The second, more important, I think, is the stranglehold that the RIAA and ASCAP and BMI and fucking EIEIO has had over musicians and music for decades. Musicians have been screwed right and left. And that's because of the publishing and the mechanical rights. I went through this when I created first started my label back in, actually I created my studio first with the intention of doing my own music. And the next thing I knew, because I was a systems and processes kind of guy, I was able to produce things musically and sonically. And the next thing I knew, I was producing everybody else except me. So we had to go through all of that licensing, all of the publishing rights, all of the stuff that is currently completely out of whack within the industry. So that, I believe, is going to change dramatically in the future as we go to a tokenized data model, which is going to be based on blockchain. That blockchain is what all the cryptocurrencies are based on. That's why there are cryptocurrencies, because of the blockchain data structure. You can't hack it. It's transparent. You can only go forward. You can never go back into a data stream and change anything. So we are at a crossroads, as I see it, where we are musicians and artists like ourselves. We are under the crossing of the streams that you don't want to do if you ever watch Ghostbusters. Do not cross the stream. Well, it's happening over our heads and through our minds and through our bodies and everything else, because you can't avoid it. So what's happening with these lawsuits, in my opinion, is the same thing that's been going on for decades on copyright issues. How many different lawsuits have we seen over the last 5-6 years in particular that have gone through these massive court battles? Zeppelin's been sued. People went after the Beatles. Yep. Prince. I mean, I think Billie Eilish was stuck in one as well.
I think Billy Joel
did
some lawsuits as well, yeah.
So, and keep in mind, I'm a geezer geek guitar player. Okay. So I've got one foot in the tech and I've got one foot in the arts. And I feel very strongly that two things. One, the music has just been bitched up. It's terrible. The crap that's out there is just crap.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so that's one issue, and that's basically because people have lost the importance and the realness of music, which is the feel.
Well, and for instance, Beyonce, she probably wrote her songs herself when she first started. But this last hit song, if you look on the credits, it's like 13 people that wrote that song. She had nothing to do with writing that song.
And Taylor Swift is another example. I mean, she's got more. The music is bland. To me, there's nothing that I've heard out of Taylor Swift that would raise a single hair on either my head or my arms.
That bubblegum pop.
It just complete shit. But look how much she's a billionaire now.
She's the leader of the Illuminati.
Yeah, that's another issue, right?
Yeah, she's to the point in stardom where she doesn't even have to go on tour anymore. She can just take her video footage of her last tour, throw it in a movie theater, and people are going to pay to go watch the movie. It's insane.
You know, and we're seeing that kind of degradation of the arts throughout all the different sectors. Look at movies. Movies are complete shit. I think, my opinion, the Marvel series, the Avengers and all of those were probably the last great movies that were made. I mean, most of them now. And I love a good action movie, and I love good effects, and I like a great storyline. And that's one of the things when I look at the DC comics, the Aquaman and all that shit, I just, the storylines never get me. I mean, they got, they're all pretty much using the same graphics and special effects folks, but storylines never get me. But last night I watched the original Avengers, and I've seen that, I don't know, a dozen or more times. And the storyline, the script is fucking hilarious, and it's great. There's a lot of great lines in there that fit along with the stories. But we're seeing it in music. The only place that seems to be free of the copyright crap is when you do images.
Yeah, so yet. That is
Yet, right? I haven't seen anybody raising, getting their fur all ruffled because of some image that looks like somebody else's shit. And the stuff, again, that you've been doing has just been outstanding. I mean, the quality, everybody comments on how great it is.
Well, there's a few things. First, real quick, shout out to 11 Bravo. If you guys over on Rumble ain't subscribed to 11 Bravo, you totally should. He's got an awesome channel, and he does music playlists somewhat similar from what I do. And yeah, guys, great show. You guys should all go check him out.
So I think that we're just seeing the beginning of the collision. Now, between tech and art. And it's happening primarily in music at this point. But there's another thing with the tech. I've been saying since the beginning of the year that the AI bubble, a la the .com bomb back at the turn of the millennium, is just around the corner. Because it's not just music, sound and music that's got lawsuits against it. It's all of the text. New York Times is suing OpenAI. The content, there's nothing that any of this technology can do that's original. It has to have a base of knowledge and information from which to learn, to train on and learn from. And it really doesn't learn. It just goes in and does a bunch of pattern recognition. That's all it does. And you're not going to get HAL 9000 Terminator singularity with the current physics and technology that we have that's going into this overly emphasized state of what this thing is going to be. We're not going to have shit that's going to come and try to eat us or take us over. It can't happen. You can program it to emulate that, to mimic it, but having the self-awareness and the sentience, and really what they keep talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence, and what they're really trying to say is they want artificial sentience, self-awareness. You can't do that in an inorganic system, period. The physics don't allow it the way that we are currently using physics. Once we evolve into a frequency physics model, and then the jury's going to be out and see where it goes. But I think it's not a bunch to do about nothing. It's a bunch to do about everything. The artistic copyright, the what people refer to as having the sovereignty and the provenance of the content you create is going through. It's just the beginning, but it's going to go through a massive change. Because one of the things that this technologies like tokenization and AI and all of that is doing is exposing a bunch of inefficiencies,
Mm-hmm.
all of the unnecessary intermediaries, all of the roadblocks, the friction points within systems that we've been using and relying on for decades. And that needs to happen because there is way too much clogged in the arteries of the system of life and society. And that's happened over time. It's kind of organically occurred because the systems weren't designed for what we are experiencing today. And over time, they've been patched up with baling wire, bubble gum, and duct tape. And all of that shit can't be fixed. It can't be repaired. It has to be replaced. And that's going to take time.
Now, I've really enjoyed the AI music. What I've enjoyed about it is the ability to have basically a whole band at my fingertips. Now, the one thing I don't like is if why wouldn't they go hire their own singers to model these voices after? You know, if they're modeling artists that are already out there, Bruce Dickinson, you know, all of these famous people, then that's definitely copyright infringement, bold and plain. I mean, you're basically copying this guy's voice. That's basically his instrument, you know. And
well, you saw what happened with Scarlett Johansson, right?
I'm not sure.
So when OpenAI dropped Chat GPT 4.0, they had a female voice on it.
Mm.
And that female voice sounds just like Scarlett Johansson. So, and Sam Altman, I got to tell you, I'm easily impressed with intelligence and people that demonstrate an intellect that is demonstrable and obvious when they open their mouth. Sam Altman, to me, is a joke. I don't think that guy has got anywhere near the prowess that people have given to him. But anyway, the point is this came out, it was 2 or 3 months ago when they released 4.0, and it had this voice that sounded just like Scarlett. And apparently there's a movie she was in called Her, I think. And Sam Altman made a point of saying, here comes 4.0, and he referenced the movie Her, which is Scarlett Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
And when Scarlett said, hey, I didn't say you could do this, and Sam came out and said, well, you know, we asked her because they did, and she turned it down. But we didn't intend the release to actually sound like Scarlett Johansson. And apparently it was an AI-generated voice that was trained on Scarlett.
Well, and
so
that's what
they had to pull that.
Yeah, well, and that's what I think they're worried about with Suno and Udio. Now, I don't think that it's the music itself. I don't think it's an issue. I think it's all comes down to vocals. Because music, I mean, hell, you can go out and get plenty of plugins and VSTs and make your equipment sound just like everybody else's. But when it comes to like voices, like that's a signature. To me, that's very copyrightable. Bruce Dickinson's voice. To me, it would seem that would be something like that would be copyrightable. Billy Joel, there's only one Billy Joel in the world. You know when he sings, you know who that is. You know, so I could see where Now, in my opinion, record labels are just mad because they're going to be losing out on money. Artists, on the other hand, they have a lot more to lose. They're not just losing money, they're losing, that's their signature. You know, that's their mark. That's their brand, is their voice. So copywriting or duplicating that brand, I could see how that would piss me off, you know, if somebody was to copy me and then go out and sell it and make music off of my voice. So I can definitely see how that could be an issue, and I'm pretty sure I think that's probably going to be the guts of the lawsuit, is over the vocals and not so much over the music.
Well, it's not just the vocal, though. I mean, most of the lawsuits in the music industry against artists over the last several years have been because of the same chord changes, same melody lines. There's been a lot of bullshit going on about Zeppelin ripping off tunes from the old blues and masters. And they, to their credit, there was one, I can't think of the name of it, but the artist's mother was given credit on the publishing rights for one of the songs because their understanding was that the family had gotten screwed on the original copyright and they wanted them to have something for it. So Jimmy Page actually put the mother's name in the publishing and the credits for writing the song. So it's not just the voice. It's the chord structure. I mean, Stairway to Heaven that is a standard progression on that opening for at least a half a dozen songs going back to the Baroque.
Yeah.
And there was, a bunch of people that tried to get in and get a piece of Zepp's success, which, that's just unfortunately human nature. But
yeah.
Now another industry, to your point about voice, I do voiceover. And there is a huge shit storm going on right now in voiceover because they can do AI voice and mimic you. Mm-hmm. There's one company that does that. I think they're heading in the right direction. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but what they did is you go on, you sign onto this thing and you read a script of about 2,000 words. And then it takes your voice and it makes it available to people who want your voice, but with their script. And because they're licensing the sound of your voice, you, as the voiceover artist, get a piece of it. You get credit for it.
Now, that's what I don't understand, why Suno and Udio wouldn't have done something like that. Say, hey, let's go out and find 10 of these amazing artists. Let's come in, let's model their voices. We'll give them a piece of the action, and we can avoid the lawsuits.
I think that's a much more tenable and sustainable kind of model. But I mean, it's like we're saying, the entire music industry has been a cadre of crap for decades. Artists have been ripped off by the labels, by the publishers, by the distributors. And that's because they had the infrastructure to get the music out. When I started my label and we had our first 3 or 4 CDs that we released, I hired a promoter out of Canada. And his name was Ed Bonk. Great guy. And we went all college. So, this is 99, 2000. Right when the MP3 and the Napster shit started coming out. And I'm an old audiophile. Do not compress anything that I want to listen to. I want to hear the full range because I can, and I'm paying attention to it. So when MP3s came out, I said, I'm not going that route. My website at the time for the label, it was all WAV and lossless files, FLAC files. And I said, I'm not doing any of this MP3 shit. 3 years later, I was doing MP3 shit because that's how everything was being consumed.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wanted my shit to get out to where people could hear it, I had to make MP3s because they weren't taking wave and FLAC and all the lossless stuff. So the tech has gotten to the point to where it's good enough for the sleeple, for the people this last 2 generations who don't know shit about music,
Mm-hmm.
who don't care about music like we did when we grew up, who don't have the relationship and the connection to music like we did. So if you got those 2 in the mix, what do you expect? You're going to get shit music being served up to people who don't know any different and really don't care. And what's that do to the artist?
Well, and I know people that use these programs, and they're pumping out thousands of songs.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same shit that you hear on the radio. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, so, you know, this has really been, Suno has been live for 2 months now. And in 2 months, I think I made 5 songs that I considered good enough to create videos, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a whole bunch of songs in my files of just fucking around and doing shit, you know. Let's experiment. But there are a handful of songs that I was like, God, this actually sounds fucking decent. So I'll make a video for it. So there's a handful of songs that I run across. It's not very often. But I tend to take a little more time doing mine with song structure. I guess I have a little bit of a advantage being a musician because I know how to set songs up. I know how to structure songs. I can put leads in or whatever I want and make it sound more humanistic rather than someone pumping out. Oh, is my mic low? Let me turn it up a little bit. I need to get a new mic. I know these SM58s are really good, but for podcasting, they're not the best mic.
Yeah, and you're breaking up a little bit too. I don't know if it's your internet connection or what, but you're getting some pauses. Am I coming through clean or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You are. Let me turn that up a little bit and see if that helps a little bit.
Yeah, that SM78's an old staple. I've got 78s, 57s. I once I got into the SM7, it's like, well, I've actually done a fair amount of voiceover using it. It's really an all-around good mic. So I've been pretty happy with that. But I don't know. Where do you think this is going, Clay?
Well, let me pull up this here. So this is from Forbes. I'll give you guys a link to this. This is something I thought was pretty interesting. Yeah, it could be my internet too. My wife's working right now as well, so we're kind of sharing our internet at the moment. This comes from Forbes magazine. In a groundbreaking move, the Record Industry Association of America just announced lawsuits brought by the labels including Sony Music, Universal Music, and Warner Records against AI music generators Udio and Suno, accusing them of copyright infringement. The lawsuit claims Suno and Udio software steals music to spit out similar work and asks for compensation of $150,000 per work. This case underscores the ongoing battle between the music industry and generative AI companies over the unauthorized use of copyrighted materials. The RIAA lawsuit highlights that Udio and Suno's models are trained on copyrighted music without permission. In fact, admitted by Udio's CEO and co-founder David Ding, According to court documents, Ding has stated that Udio's high-quality outputs are the result of training on publicly available and high-quality music obtained from the internet. This admission forms the crux of the plaintiff's argument that Udio's outputs are derivative works of copyrighted recordings. He basically just admitted it right there that he's modeling all of this other music. For instance, using a prompt like "My Tempting 1964 Girl Smokey Sing Hitsville Soul Pop" and excerpting lyrics from The Temptations, Udio generated a track titled "Sunshine Melody," which closely resembles the copyrighted song "My Girl" by The Temptations. All tracks have now been deleted by Udio. The plaintiffs have provided side-by-side transcriptions of the musical scores to demonstrate the similarities in melody, chords, and backing vocals, proving that Udio's outputs are not merely inspired, but copied from the original recordings.
Well, right there, let me just add this. Notice the use of the word inspired.
Mm-hmm.
Software you can't put inspiration in software. That's not how it works. So it wasn't inspired. It was used. It was simply, that was the prompt. And again, all AI is pattern recognition over large, they call it large language models, but it's actually large media models. And depending on where you point it, based on the prompt, that prompt is going to generate the keywords, which are then going to go look for pattern recognition over the data it's targeted at. That's how it works. So there was no inspiration. It was copied. That's
straight up copied. Yeah, he even admitted it was straight up copied.
And he admits it.
ChatGPT is doing the same thing by calling publicly available content on the internet. Yeah, they're basically, that's what they do. They're pulling all of this stuff and just copying it. And
11 Bravo, you're absolutely right. ChatGPT is being sued. There's like 4 or 5 lawsuits right now because of pulling stuff. New York Times is suing them because they've gone out and stolen a bunch of shit from the New York Times articles that are essentially copywritten because they published it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, structured plagiarism. That's a good way to put it.
The lawsuit further reveals a pattern where users of Udio's service could generate outputs with vocal replicas of specific artists by entering prompts based on genres and descriptors of copyrighted recordings from online music databases like rateyourmusic.com. 404 Media demonstrated this technique, showing how Udio and Suno services could replicate specific artists' vocals, reinforcing the argument that their models use copyrighted material without authorization.
See, so the question there goes, or at least the point there goes to the question that I was mentioning earlier. The problem is the copyright system in this case. The folks that are, these big labels are suing because they own the copyrights. They own the publishing rights.
Mm-hmm.
Those fuckers need to go away. Period. ASCAP, BMI, RIAA, and EI fucking O, they all have been screwing the artists for decades, and their time to go is now.
Well, and
now, is this going to be the catalyst that makes that happen? Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, could be. It could be. And yeah,
and
with
then
technology nowadays, artists don't need a record label. The record label was just for promotions, for the most part, anyway.
All you need is a smartphone in your bathroom, and you can make a viral hit.
Seriously, it's sad but true, and I blame radio for that. If there was better music on the radio, maybe we wouldn't need stuff like this. You know.
Well, and here's a question: how would you feel if an original piece that you wrote, performed, and produced was copied by somebody else right now? How would you feel?
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
I'm kind of not sure. I think I might be happy with that.
Well, I guess what are they, what's that saying? What is it? Something is something of flattery. It's not duplication is a form of flattery, but
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Imitation is a sincerest form of flattery.
right. Yeah, there we go. 11 Bravo got it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess, I mean, I guess that could be pretty cool. Hey, okay, and Metallica just covered my latest song. How fucking amazing is that?
Right? I'd be happy with that. I think I wouldn't bitch, piss, or moan. I would write it. I would say, hey, big ass badass boys have copied one of my pieces.
Yeah, exactly, 11 Bravo. Flattery doesn't pay my fucking bills, is right.
That's right. Well, and that goes back to the point that I was making about, the stranglehold that these asshats have on the creative process is where the fucking problem is. They are watching the downfall of what they have held on to for far too long. And they're just like all these other systems, science, academia, entertainment, news, all of them. And you've heard me ad nauseum about this to probably you're tired of it, Clay, but all these systems are broken.
Mm-hmm.
The entire system is broken, and it's going through that transformative stage of getting it corrected. And music, and that's the other thing. What's your thoughts on the fact that people don't appreciate music like they used to?
I think the industry you have to blame the industry for that, for the crap that they're pumping out. There is good music out there. I see it all over the internet. YouTube is full of some of the best music I have ever heard in my whole life. But you don't see them out on the record labels. You don't see them out on the stores.
Right.
Because they don't control these people. And I don't know. It's you hear horror stories about these record labels of people going in and blowing all this money and then ending up being, broke and broken. And I don't know.
Well, one of the things that I am very heartened by, 11, that's what we were talking about is Rick's video on this.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I'm heartened by is that there is a new crop of young musicians that are just fucking unbelievably talented. I'm a guitar player like you, so I tend to filter through and find the good players. Matteo Mancuso is a kid whose technique and skill and style is off from another planet. And he's like 23, 24. And he's all over the place now because people are realizing this kid is just from another planet. There's a little girl that plays bass. She's like 12, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a monster.
Yeah, I'm following her. I don't remember her name right offhand, but
Carolyn or something.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, she's amazing. She started when she was way young too.
Yeah, and there's a little black drummer that's like 5 years old that was on it was either America's Got Talent or something. And this kid got out there and he's been playing since he was 2 and he was 5 and he got up there and just killed it on this drum set. Now, the thing that I'm seeing in these musicians, they're not playing pop shit. They're not playing commercial stuff. They're more jazz and fusion and some blend of these different genres where style, technique are incredibly important to them being able to execute what they're doing. I ran into just a week ago someone I'd never heard of, and I bury my face in jazz and fusion. Barbara Dennerlin. Never heard of her. She's from Germany. And a video showed up in my suggested feed on YouTube. And it had one of my favorite drummers, Dennis Chambers, on it. And I thought, well, if Dennis is playing with them, and they got to be good. And it's called Extra Hot Stuff. And it's from 2000. Ellen plays bass. That's who it is. But it's from 2006, and it's a live performance. And she is an organist. And I thought, I followed all the greats, and I thought I'd pretty much seen them all. Well, I hadn't seen her. And this woman was on a Hammond B3, not only blowing the chords with her left hand and incredible solos on her right hand, but she's using the pedals and playing this pun intentional walking bass line with her feet. And it sounds like Ron Carter just blowing some incredible shit. And I put it on, and I actually put it on loop and listened to it for about an hour. It's about a 10-minute piece. Just kept playing it over and over because every time I was hearing something new that she was doing. Incredible talent. Which brings me to another point. And again, this is mainly from the jazz, fusion, rock kind of genres. I've noticed, particularly in Asia and in Europe, that they still have a more finely tuned and appreciative sense of great music, where in America, it's just basically swirling the bowl. Jazz and fusion in Europe and Asia are ginormous. These people get into complex improvisation and polyrhythms, which to me is some of the most incredible shit, and this goes back to Beethoven and Bach and Mozart. These guys were writing, and it would start in 4/4 and it'd go to 5/4, then 7/8, then 6/8, then 12/9, and then back to 4/4. And the journey that they took you on with just from a rhythmic perspective, to say nothing of the chordal movements and melodic structure, was just mind-boggling. It's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy because it's, to me, there's some intellect that's gone into the creation of it. They've taken the form and the patterns, and they've explored different ways in which to put together different rhythms and different key signatures even. And that to me is interesting. All this other shit that's coming out now, it's so fucking boring to me. And maybe that's just my bias. Maybe it's my because of my own inundation that I've done for myself. I like interesting music. And it's kind of like what 11 is saying. It's like reading a book with your ears. Mm-hmm. I'm not, I love me some Dr. Seuss. Why? Because it's intellectually stimulating, and it's audibly rhythmic, and it rhymes, but it's simple. Give me some of that in a song. I mean, why people haven't put some of Dr. Seuss's shit to music is beyond me. Seems like a right place to go for some great stuff.
Plenty of rhymes in there.
Right? Better than what Beyonce and her cadre of idiots are putting together. But I like interesting music that surprises me. One of Sting, for example, one of the great artists of the last several decades. Pat Metheny, same thing. Ron Carter. What they say about music is, if you don't hold my interest after 8 bars, I'm out. Surprise me. Show me something new. Take me somewhere where I didn't expect to go. That to me is interesting and what I think is one of the powerful components of music. And it's like we said, I think it was last Saturday's show, we were talking about the importance of wrong notes, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially when you're soloing, because You and I both know what those are. We find them all the time, on purpose or accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
But Miles Davis brought that home and said the only way a note is wrong is determined by the next note. And when I first realized that, I went, yeah, because I've heard a lot of shit that just doesn't sound like it belongs there, but that next note or the next phrase just brought it home.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to me. But that's because I listen to music, because music is something that's very personal to me. Music has become so commoditized and commercialized that nobody gives a shit anymore, or at least most of the kids. But going back to the point I was saying earlier, there's a boatload, a new crop of kids that are coming up that have incredible talent.
Yeah.
And I am more than my faith in the future of music and the next generation is buoyed a little bit, because there are kids, there are people that are learning the real components of what music is, and they're playing it.
Taj Farron or whatever, 10-year-old guitar player.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That kid's really good. I think this is the key, is having parents that feed them real music. I grew up listening. My mom played the stereo every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays. You heard Elvis and all the standards playing through our house. You know, she put me in musical classes when I was in primary school, and the parents just don't do that anymore. I mean, hell, there ain't even, for the most part, there's not music classes in school anymore, for the most part. I mean, used to see all of these kids coming home carrying, you know, their tuba and their saxophone and their guitars and all of this stuff, and you just don't see that anymore. You don't see that.
No, and I count myself fortunate, lucky, and as a result of a purposeful bathing of my children in music. They're in their mid-30s now, and I got 3 grandchildren. So they were born in the late 80s. And throughout the 90s, when I was doing my tech career, and they were, growing up, through their adolescence, they were just smothered in dad's music. They heard Led Zeppelin and Dan Fogelberg and all of the greats from back in the 70s when I grew up, and they were just bathed in it. And a few years ago, they're all in Atlanta. A few years ago, they made their first mixtapes on CDs back in 2000. Okay. And they selected their music. They had computers. They had little gateway computers, and they were able to burn their own CDs. And so they made their own music, and it's all, classic shit. Ain't No Mountain High Enough was on my oldest daughter's, right? And so a couple of years ago, my oldest daughter was telling me that they had some friends over for dinner, and she was playing her mix CD. And her friends came in and said, "What music is that?" And she said, "You don't know what this is? Well, you have my dad to thank for this, because now you're going to get a bunch of it." So they do not care for any of the stuff that's going on today. Fortunately, they still listen to the classics. They are what we call classics. And I find it oddly irritating and offensive that I hear people talk about oldies coming from the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, I guess what, after 20 years it becomes a classic.
I mean, I checked out of commercial music in the early 80s because I had found jazz fusion. I was listening to John McLaughlin and Jean-Luc Ponty and the progressive fusion, Kansas, and all the stuff that was coming out, the boy band stuff with the long hair and the leather shit going down. I actually did some of that in the 70s, but I actually had one opportunity where before Van Halen, I was in Southern California, and where Eddie and the boys were. And before Ted Templeton found them, the band I was with, Maelstrom, we opened up for Van Halen at a little place called the Golden Corral, 75, I think it was, 76, somewhere in there, just before they became famous. And I mean, we were pounding the shit out of our instruments. We were as loud as we could be. Marshall stacks turned up to 12, tearing it up, making a bunch of noise, screaming and yelling. But when the 80s came around and this boy band shit started, and then you had disco going on, and then this pseudo hip hop rap shit. And I just said, yeah, none of this stuff does it for me. I want a 17-minute opus. I want something that takes me on a journey, not yelling and screaming at me about, my last girlfriend or my new truck.
Right.
That didn't do anything for me. So I checked out. And in the 90s, I was doing all my tech career, flying around all over the planet. And I kind of picked up a little bit of what was going on. And I'm like, God, this music, what happened? I was not impressed at all. So some people say, well, haven't you heard of such and such band? They were big in the 90s. I'm like, no, haven't heard of them because I didn't listen. I checked out. It wasn't interesting to me. So I've been going through this for a few decades.
People tell me the same thing. Oh, yeah, you don't remember this band? I'm like, no, I never heard of them. Like, really? They were really popular in the 90s. Like, nope, never heard of them.
I missed them.
I got just a couple of more articles here. Generative AI and licensing. The controversy centers on generative AI tools, which are a specific subset of AI technology. These tools use user input combined with a trained data set to produce original output based on the data. The primary concerns revolve around the labor and licensing impacts of both the outputs and inputs. Among generative AI tools, there is a significant difference between licensed and unlicensed services. Licensed services have agreements with rights holders to use their copyrighted recordings and lyrics for training purposes. In contrast, unlicensed services such as Udio and Suno claim fair use as their justification, a stance that is contentious and is often considered a stretch. The issue also underscores the differences among various AI applications in music. Not all AI in music is controversial. Tools like EQ plugins and beat matchings are standard components of the recording process. The debate specifically focuses on generative AI that creates new content based on existing works.
The whole generative AI is just another red herring. It's bullshit. They're using, and I can say this because I am a geezer geek. Okay, I was doing tech back in the 80s, and I'm building my computers in the 80s, and then building software for Fortune 500 in the 90s. And the one thing that was clear is that geeks or geezers and geeks in particular, are terrible at marketing. Terrible word choices. They are not linguistic experts in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. So they tend to pick poor names and words and terms to define what it is that they've done or, why it's different. There is nothing artificial nor intelligent about AI. They're the wrong words, period.
Yeah.
It's an expert system. And that's all these. How many AI companies do you think are out there right now? Not just in music, across the board.
Thousands, I'm sure. Hundreds at least.
Why do you think that is?
People are fucking lazy.
Well, in my opinion, what's going on is everybody's taking these expert systems and they're applying them to specific tasks. So you've got AI that'll write a book. You got AI that'll do a movie, a video. You've got AI that'll do art.
Yeah.
You got AI that'll do your voice. You got AI that'll do music. You've got an AI that will do some kind of science. One of the things that they've been finding is AI is terrible at math and logic. It can't function with math or logic. And that's one of the big problems. That's why they're calling it generative AI. Oh, it's going to be able to finally do math, or it's going to be able to, all it is pattern recognition.
Mhm.
On top of which, whatever it's designed to go improve a specific task is totally dependent on whoever programmed it. That's why Gemini came out and fell flat on its face when they dropped that a few months ago, and you'd go in and say, well, generate me an image of the founding fathers, and it was all a bunch of black folk.
Mhm.
Excuse me? How the fuck did you get there? Well, DEI was built into it.
Yep.
And all of these are just examples of a very immature, nascent evolution of search and expert systems that have gotten way too much hype, sucking way too much oxygen out of the air, out of the conversation, and pouring a bunch of FUD into the conversation and confusing the shit out of people.
Mhm.
Well, this thing that you're talking about here with the lawsuits against the music creators is the first in a long line of stuff that's about to happen that I think is going to result in an AI bubble and collapse. And I think there's a shitload of money that's about to be lost.
Mhm.
The AI, the future is going to be open sourced individual expert systems. Nobody is going to have the almighty AI because somebody will build another AI to go compete against that AI.
Yeah.
So we're really watching, I think, a coming collapse and a collision of tech and the antiquated systems that have been in place for too long, screwing creators. The rise of the independent content creator is upon us.
Mhm.
And this is just some of the first battles in the war, in my opinion.
Central to this case is the debate over fair use. Several key points argue against considering AI training as fair use. Commercial purposes. These AI products are designed for commercial gain that competes with the original works. Market harm. The AI-generated music undermines existing and potential sales, distribution, and licensing markets for the original recordings. And precedent, unlike Google Books, which did not create substitutes from the original works and did not harm the market, Udio and Suno's outputs directly infringe on the market of original music. And it does. It would directly affect record sales. I've said this before. Why would I go buy the new Metallica album when I can jump on Udio, put whatever words I want in there, and have a whole album that sounds exactly like Metallica, but sings the words that I want it to sing? Why would I go spend the $15 on an album for that? That's the problem, I think.
Well, I think there's also the issue of, as easy as they've made it for the user to create something, it's still work.
Yeah.
You still have to go in there and, how many times do you have to go through it before you finally get what you want? A dozen?
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah, at least a dozen, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
And that speaks to, at least I think, some of the issues of attention span. As much as this last generation is, glued to their uniblab and swiping left, right, up, down, whatever the fuck it is that they're doing on these things, their attention span to go in and use these tools to actually come up with something interesting is not really there. And then there's a whole other issue, which is energy. These AI systems require a fuckload of energy for them to work. And while we're being told to dial down our air conditioner, but buy an electric vehicle, okay, it's like, well, wait a minute. You guys have a mixed message. It doesn't make any sense here. These tools and the technologies require energy sources that we don't have the capacity to service right now. So that's another little underlying issue that is also going to contribute to the wars and the eventual collapse of this shit. If you have, and there's a number of companies that have their own open source AI where you can go in and program it exactly how you want it and put it on your own devices. Those are the ones that I think are going to win in the end. So, for example, I have my own catalog on my label. I would love to point an AI tool to my content and tell me and let me tell it to go take some from this album and some from this album and this piece from this artist and put me something together that is completely unique, I guess, in the sense that I want you to combine these three different artists, which are completely different from one another. Mm-hmm. I'd love to do that. See what it comes up with. And then maybe take that output and go, you know what? I think I'm going to take my electric guitar and that didgeridoo and that tambura over there and the sax on this album, and I'm going to write something new. It's given me some ideas to go do a new creation and use it as a tool for exploration, not a tool for creation.
Right.
That's just, to me, the way what would make sense. But anybody who's going to rely on AI to do their work for them, people are, AI is going to come take my job. Well, no, the people who use AI are going to come take your job.
Yeah.
Because there is a boatload of inefficiency and friction in all these systems. And there's a bunch of people that are doing jobs because it's a friction point. It's an intermediary that's been built into a legacy system. That shit needs to be cleaned up. And if you're doing something that is unnecessary, but you're getting paid for it, sorry. Go find something else to do. Add to your skill set. Go learn about the AI and maybe use it to your advantage. Mm-hmm. But, and again, that's just a part of this fear-mongering bullshit that's too pervasive in the sectors and in the market. Again, in my opinion.
Alrighty. Well, I think we're going to end the stream there. We talked about an hour and a half. Now, there's still plenty of more stuff to talk about, just AI music in general, but I'm curious how this is going to end up. I don't see Suno and Udio using fair use as an excuse to copy people's voices. So they're definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
See them on the losing end of this.
Yeah, the whole fair use thing, the digital copyright, Digital Millennium, DMCA, I think it is, back in the 90s, where that whole fair use thing is, the issue right now. I did a stream. I don't know if you were on this one or not. This was a couple of months ago. And at the end, we played Whitney Houston's Star Spangled Banner performance from the Super Bowl in '91.
Oh, yeah.
You were there, right?
Yeah.
So we got a copyright strike from, I think it was Warner. It might have been Universal, whoever owns the rights. Mm-hmm. And we had the option to dispute it. And in my dispute, I said, don't you guys want people to, this is 30 plus years ago. A lot of people that are alive today don't even know that exists.
Yeah.
I'm doing you a favor by sharing it, right? And by the way, it's, all they could copyright claim on was the mechanical rights, not the song. So it was the performance of it, and Whitney, not the song. So disputed it. Gerald got it on his channel as well for the same show, disputed it, and they did not contest it. And after 30 days, they released the strike.
And
so it's like, well, if you're not going to, if you want to complain and put your copyright claims out there, but you're not going to dispute them, why don't you just take the fucking thing off? It's fair use.
well, and
It's over 30 years old. Come on.
they use AI as well. YouTube uses AI. The last time I tried to talk to YouTube support, it was a freaking joke. It was useless. I spent 3 hours talking to this, what I'm assuming AI bot, did absolutely nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. Except tell me that they take each case on a case-by-case basis.
No.
Did we
No,
help
it's
you? Did we answer all your questions? Fuck no, you didn't.
Well, it's just like this bullshit with fact checkers, right? All of a sudden, when the truth came out, fact checkers popped up. It's like, well, what's wrong with you people? And if fact checkers are so accurate, why don't you just make it a news program and just put your facts and make that your news? But, you know, it's really about the truth coming out. And I think, you know, this stream is an example of that. We're calling out the bullshit while calling out the issues.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing that we've said that is not factual, you know, except for our opinions and so forth, which, you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, right?
Yeah. Now, 11 Bravo, this happened to my friend as well. 11 Bravo says, happened to me on YouTube when I posted a video of me playing my interpretation of a Hotel California guitar solos. UMG denied my fair use and I got a strike. That happened to a friend of mine, my friend Charlie Gabaldon. He does live streams every week over on YouTube, and he plays his acoustic guitar and covers songs. He got a strike because he covered, I think it was Hotel California, or it was a different Eagles song. But they gave him a strike, and it was just him, an acoustic guitar, singing by himself, and they striked him for it. He tried to fight it, but there's no fighting. He got the strike for it, and I told him, I was like, well, if you have any other Eagles covers on your channel, you might want to get rid of them, because if they give you 3 strikes in a row, you're out and you lose your channel. He privatized 3 more Eagles videos.
Yeah, and the Eagles are one of the most notorious for copyright strikes. Those guys, I don't know what's going on with Don Frey and whoever all those Eagles guys are, but they don't want anybody playing their shit.
Yeah,
whether it's Don Henley, yeah. And agreed, 11. Don Henley, those guys, I don't know what's wrong with them. I guess it's a severe form of narcissism, but I mean, they are an extreme example of don't play any of their shit or you're fucked.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I used to like you guys. I still like some of your songs, but you're assholes. Fuck off.
Well, and that's one of the problems with YouTube. So once you're flagged, you're flagged. So I never had any issues, but once I got flagged, once I got reported, and then they noticed all of this copyrighted music that it's not even copyrighted music, it's reused content. It's my friend's music videos, because that's what I did. I promoted my friend's music.
Mm-hmm.
So they got me for reused content and demonetized me. So I had to go through, I put over 300 live streams on unlisted. I had to put almost all of my live streams unlisted, because that's what I did. I fucking promoted other artists and played their videos. So every single one of them live streams is against terms of service. I had to remove them all. So, you know, I had 500 and something live streams on my channel. I now have, I think, 3 because of all of this. And now I can't share any other content on my channel at all, or they'll strike me. So I can only put my own content or fair use.
Yeah, and isn't it nice that we don't have that problem on Rumble?
Yes, that's what I love Rumble for. I'm just really impressed with the platform. Now, when I first got over there, I was like, oh God, this is like Trump heaven, you know, like everybody's sucking Trump's dick. But when you get into it, there's actually more than just a political platform. There is a lot of content over there, and they're really pushing for new content creators, and that's probably why I'm doing so well over there right now, you know?
Well, they're doing a number of innovative things, and they've got a big lawsuit right now going on against YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who is leading that, the lead attorney, Robert Barnes, is the one who wrote the terms and conditions for Rumble. And Rumble also bought Locals.
Mm-hmm.
So a number of the content creators, these are basically, you know, podcasts, and they're basically all the guys that got canceled are over on Locals and Rumble.
Yep.
You got Russell and Alex Jones and all these guys.
All them guys, yeah.
Because there's no censorship. You are fine to speak your mind, which is, I don't know, First Amendment kind of like, I guess, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
all these other platforms think that they have the right to determine the validity of your content. Well, they're not publishers. They're aggregators. Facebook is the same fucking thing. And Musk, to his credit, over on X, the brother's letting everybody say their thing.
I kind of got it. I was not a really big fan of Elon Musk, but I got to give it to him. He went there. He fucking cut the tape. He, you know, got rid of 80% of his staff and said, well, fuck, come to find out when you got free speech, you don't need all these motherfuckers here.
That's right. To me, that's a serious baller business move.
Yeah.
And we're going to see more of that. We're seeing it happen in governments. You know, Milei down in Argentina did the same fucking thing. He went in there and cleaned out half the government, and all of a sudden they got a budget surplus. It's like, well, where did that come from? Well, it was stuck in all those intermediaries that didn't need to be there. To the point I was making earlier, there's a whole bunch of shit in the system that needs to be cleared out because it's inefficient, it's irrelevant, it's unnecessary. So I guess, you know, to kind of close it off here, and thank you very much for allowing me to come on and flap my yap on your show here, Clay. I've enjoyed sharing the thoughts and the ideas on this because it's just beginning. It's like you said, you know,
Oh, yeah.
we're just starting to see this shit, and it ain't going to be over till the fat lady sings.
And you're right, Welton Kinder. Welton Kinder is an amazing artist himself. So many older artists should be happy that their work remains relevant to the public through covers, and I agree. I mean, you'd think that would be like a feather in the cap, you know? Like, man, this guy, like, everybody's covering my song. Is it that good where everybody wants to cover my song? I think that should, you would think, anyway.
Right.
All right, I think we're going to end it here. We went an hour and a half. I'm going to play one video to take us out, and it's an AI video.
Yay!
and I think it's my opinion you can make some pretty decent music using AI if you structure the song correctly. You add words that people can relate with. You put a video behind it that it kind of explains the words. I think you can still do some pretty incredible stuff. But at the same time, it's still AI, and it's not like me picking up my guitar and just shredding on a backing track. AI can't really do that.
I would use it as an assistant creation tool to help you develop ideas, not the final song or the final piece. because again, if you want any kind of feel or soul or any of those things that makes music what it is to the most of us that pay attention and love music, you're not going to use the whole AI thing. I use it as an idea generator.
Well, I use it for intros and outros, and
which you kill. I mean, you knock it out with those, brother. You do an outstanding job.
Yeah, creative assistant is right, 11 Bravo. Now, I do make music videos with them too, but it's fun. It's not nothing that I take seriously. I'm a musician myself, so I wouldn't expect this video that I'm going to play to fucking go mainstream, because it's all AI, just because I wrote the words to it. It's a joke song, so to me, stuff like this. Now, I do have some meaningful AI songs that I wrote that I added the lyrics to, and the song actually turned out really damn good, and I was impressed with it. Is it still
Stay Off My Lawn is one of your masterpieces, in my opinion.
I'm going to play.
Nice.
And so some of them have really come out to be really good, but it's not my work. So it could be my lyrics. It kind of maybe presents the feeling that I want to get across. But in the end, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros that's creating it. But hang out here real quick, Robert, and I'll talk to you after this is ended.
All right.
So this video I'm going to pull up, I did make it with Suno AI. I made the lyrics are mine. I wrote the lyrics for it. The music and the vocals are Suno AI, and then I used Filmora to create the video. So I'm going to play this on our way out, so thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Make sure you hang out with us Friday night, Rockin' Rabbit Holes. We're going to be talking about the surveillance state and how Big Brother's always watching you, so hang out with us on Friday for that. But this is titled Stay Off My Lawn. The music was made with Suno AI. I created the video with Filmora. And here we go. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us.
Young and wild, but I've seen it all, every scheme and guile. Respect your elders or face my wrath. Cross my line, you'll feel my aftermath. Young and wild, but I've seen it all, it.